Most people tend to think you need 240 FPS in 1080p or even 120 frames per second in 4K to get a cinematic image. In my opinion, is this not the most important aspect on a camera? Sure, 10-bit is nice, but what makes a picture really cinematic is, in my opinion, the dynamic range. What is dynamic range in a camera? The dynamic range means that you can see in your image all the beautiful clouds and all the bright sky and also the dark and deep shadows in your face. The dynamic range of a camera is often considered as stops. Most cameras have maybe 12, 11, 10.5 or even 14 dynamic stops of dynamic range. If you believe in the legends, the Panasonic S5, which I'm filming with, has 14 stops of dynamic range. Maybe. I don't know how to measure it. I'm not the pro in dynamic range, but I know that the problem with the blown out skies, but you want to see the shadows, but then you have blown out sky, or the different around, you want to see the beautiful sunset, but then the shadow is completely crushed. That's mostly the problem. And how to solve this problem is today our mission. You need for this problem maybe a little bit of equipment, which is not really expensive, or a little bit more time. Let me explain. By the way, it feels really good to make a little YouTube video again, because I don't have so much time for YouTube. As you may know, my name is Paul, I'm from Berlin, Germany. I'm a freelance videographer and I can live from my videography work. Actually, the Lumix S5 pays all my bills, and as I'm a little freelancer, I make money with my videography, with my photography. And if you want to learn more about how you can develop a little business with your camera, then maybe subscribe to my channel. Or if you want to know something how to make 10 grand per month with your camera, then write me a little message. It's not like a filmmaker, full-time filmmaker course here. Everything is here for free. You can ask me anything in the comments. So, this little piece of equipment is called a graduated square ND filter. What does this do? That's basically an ultra cheap one from a company I show you. I think that's the company name. It's Rangers. I don't know what, I think the company name is Rangers. And I purchased this on Amazon for like 30 euro, and I cannot recommend this one because that's ultra cheap. How does this work? You screw basically a little square filter holder on your lens, and then you insert these graduated filters. And as you can see here, these filters are a little bit black on the top and clear on the bottom. That means that you can darken some parts of your image, mostly the upper parts. And that's often also used in cinemas to have a good exposure on the ground and in the sky. That means you can add some stops of dynamic range to your camera. Be careful, these filters, these work, but they change a little bit the color of your image because they're ultra cheap and they are made out of plastic. I purchased this little Ranger graduated ND filter square filter set, which I cannot really recommend. It's a 25 euro maybe filter set. These filters are a little bit plasticky, that's no glass. You can bend it basically a little bit, and as you can see here, the image it produced is okay. I would not recommend to use such a cheap version. We have a Sprichwort, a saying in Germany: if you buy cheap, you buy it twice. And that's basically the part what I do here. I will buy this again, maybe in a more expensive and better version. You have here a graduated ND filter. That's ND filter on the top and clear on the bottom, but that's very plasticky, and that you can bend it basically. That produces an okay image when you use it just with the graduated ND filter, but not with the other filters combined. This cost maybe to produce in China, maybe, I don't know, 5 euro, and they sell it for 30 euros. I wanted to use it in Iceland, but I didn't even bring it to Iceland because that's not really worth the money. If you want to try out to use good filters, maybe buy some from K&F and some expensive ones. They will also come with these adapter rings. That's the only good part on this little kit, because I have now a lot of adapter rings here, which are also really nice to have. Step up rings, step round rings, step down rings, but I would not recommend this company. And they're not really good. I will buy maybe some better things in the future. But for now, it's only for testing. I purchased this cheap one, but it works. As you can see here, you can darken up the sky, pretty cool, and you see everything. That's pretty cool. The picture has then a little bit color shift to bluish or magenta-ish. You could change this and tune this in the editing part of your image, sure, or you can call it an artistic effect or something, but that works. And when you screw to your camera, make sure it's tight, it fits, and you don't lose it or anything. You can even change the direction. You can say, okay, the left part of the image is darker, or the right part of the image is darker, how you want. And in this filter package, you have different variations of filters and etc. And well, that works. But that's one method to do it. It's basically the in-camera method, and I am really a fan of doing something in camera right. I like to light up my pictures very well. I will not color grade this image. That is how it is in my camera, and upload it to YouTube. And I like to be not perfect on set, but yes, color grading is cool, but I like to get everything right in camera. That's my approach of being a professional filmmaker, because people call me sometimes a professional filmmaker. And the second part is a little bit more editing heavy. You can make basically a double exposure. A double exposure in photo, you know it very well. You take two pictures, a brighter one and a darker one, or several pictures, or maybe 5 pictures, you combine them and you have a high dynamic range image. That works also in videos. For instance, as you can see here, you film at first the bright window and you see, okay, the window is too bright. Then you expose your picture perfect to the window and you see, okay, I can see outside, but the rest is pretty damn dark. And when I would sit there now, that would be too dark. But when you go in the editing software and you combine these both pictures with a little mask, and you do a little bit of editing together, then you can see here that I can sit in this very corner and be completely well exposed, because I have 2 takes. One take where I am perfectly exposed and one take where the window is perfectly exposed. What you then cannot do is enter the frame where the picture is interlaced with each other. You cannot cross-section the image, because then would be the effect gone. That's not possible. And it also doesn't work with a moving image. When you don't do the feathering right, then you can see like a hard edge, which is also pretty annoying. That works in some cases, and it works also not when you even when you cross the frame and you don't move, then you have to draw an outline around you. So that's not so the best practical use, but for these like window scenarios, or when you take still videos on a landscape and you make a double exposure, that works very well. That works even with a drone. I did this in Greece, where I want to take a cool high dynamic range video with a drone. Actually, with my DJI Mavic Mini, I made a tutorial how you can add 12 or 14 stops of dynamic range to a DJI Mavic Mini, which is crazy. And yes, with these both methods, you can actually make pretty damn cinematic images and videos with your camera. And if you want to learn more what to make and not to make with your camera, you can subscribe to my little channel. As you can see here, I will upload this one take to YouTube, because I don't have so much time for YouTube anymore, because I have a lot of clients. I can, like I said, live for my videography work. I have no car, I don't smoke, I don't drink so often, and I don't have so ultra expensive living. I don't buy expensive watches or anything. That's why can I live with my videography work, even when I have 1 or 2 clients per month. That's okay for me. Yes, if you want to learn more about this, then maybe purchase these cheap filters. You don't have to have the ultra most expensive gear. Sometimes cheap gear is okay, but for professional work, I would recommend buying good gear. For hobby, for a little YouTube play around, is this filter maybe good? I don't know. What do you think? Is dynamic range for you also one of the most important aspect by buying a camera? I know when I searched for a better camera than the Lumix GH5, I sure had the S5 in mind because it has good dynamic range, but I compared it also with videos with some Sony cameras. Do I want to have a system change? And the sensors are quite different in some cameras. The Sony sensors, for instance, work pretty well when you underexpose the image and then brighten the picture up. That works really well in a Sony sensor. In a Lumix S5 sensor, in a Panasonic sensor, doesn't work this at all. The Lumix S5 sensor, or the Panasonic sensors in general, works that you can overexpose the image pretty hard, like 3 or 4 stops, and then bring back the highlights. This works ultra awesome in this camera. That's why I purchased this camera. And yeah, you have to know your sensor. Buy the camera and the sensor you really need. I don't know how it is with Canon. Maybe they are some kind of in the middle. They have amazing color science. And yes, what's your most important thing when purchasing a camera? Maybe write it down in the comments. Activate my channel and subscribe to the little bell, then you get notifications when I'm online. See you in the next video. My name is Paul.